Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Getting Started with Yulio webinar. My name is Nicole. I'm one of the client success specialists here at Yulio, and I'll be hosting today's session. Our main objective of today's webinar is to provide a high-level overview of the Yulio platform and its key features so that you can leave feeling confident to start creating and presenting your own VR experiences. This training will cover a lot of information, so if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to enter them in the question box, and I will stick around um, for a few minutes at the end to answer those questions. To add to that, my contact details are on the screen now, so if you leave today's session with any questions or you'd like to follow up with one-on-one training session later, please feel free to reach out to me. Finally, if you do have to leave today's session early, I am recording the full webinar and will send that to all registrants a little bit later so you can watch it back and share it with your team as well. So here's our agenda for today's webinar. We'll start off by briefly going over Yulio Jump. We'll then do a quick overview of what you can expect to see in your Yulio account. After that, we'll go into creating and organizing your projects, followed by enhancing your projects with the hotspot editor. We'll then look at some options for sharing your projects and then wrap up with the Q&A period. To start off, I'm going to briefly go over Yulio Jump. So Yulio Jump is our cloud-based rendering engine, which is available through the Yulio plugin for Revit, SketchUp, and CET. It enables you to generate the files needed for virtual reality and augmented reality with only a few clicks, and then sends that content directly to your Yulio account where you can create your immersive VR experience. To give you an example of Yulio Jump's capabilities, I'm going to open up a project here in browser mode. So this project was created in CET and rendered with Yulio Jump. So with Yulio Jump for CET, you can use CET's native lighting to light the space, which we've done here. And you can even add a background environment through the windows for added realism. So as we look around, we can see some navigation and enhancement hotspots around the space. Some of these were rendered or added during the rendering process, and others were added manually in Yulio's hotspot editor. So I'll go over all the different hotspots that you can add to your project in more detail a little bit later. So I'm not going to be going over how to render with the Yulio plugin today, but I wanted to mention it because I will be referencing it throughout the session. Following the webinar, if you are interested in learning more about Yulio Jump with Revit, SketchUp, or CET, you can visit the CAD plugins page on our website. Let me return to the website. So here's that page. You can access this page by going to our website, hovering over the resources tab, and then selecting CAD plugins. So from here, we have detailed user guides for each plugin that you can download. You can also download the plugins from this page as well. So the plugin is free to install for anyone with an active Yulio license. Now, you don't have to use Yulio Jump to create VR projects in Yulio. For example, if your main priority in your VR projects is photorealism, you can opt to render your VR scene files using an alternative rendering engine that may provide you more photorealistic renders. Before uploading those files to Yulio, you just have to make sure that they meet our upload requirements, which I'll show you later. So here's an example of a VR project that contains scenes rendered from 3ds Max, but they were uploaded to Yulio to create an immersive VR experience. So as you can see, it still includes the same navigation, and you can add in enhancement hotspots as well, like audio. All right, so now let's move on to a quick tour of your Yulio account. So when you first log into your Yulio account, you'll be automatically taken here to your projects page. This is where all the projects on your account will be stored. You can also come here to create a new project if you choose to create your project without Yulio Jump. You can always navigate to the page just by clicking on this tab here. Next to this tab, we have headsets. This is where you can go to connect one or more headsets to your account. You can also download projects to your headsets from this secondary headset projects tab. And you can add up to 20 projects at a time to your headset. The next tab we have here is Collaborate. Collaborate is our presentation and collaboration tool. This is where you can go to start a Collaborate session. We'll return to this page a little bit later when I cover sharing and presenting your projects. Next to Collaborate, we have the Resources tab. This tab includes direct links to the CAD plugins page that I mentioned earlier. You'll also find a link to our knowledge base here, which is a great resource to reference if you have a question about how to use any of Yulio's features. The last tab at the top here is where you will see the email associated with your account. If you click on the Company Settings tab from the drop-down menu, this is where account administrators can keep track of views and manage licenses. So there's a few secondary tabs from at the top here. So if you click on Custom Branding, from this tab, you can add your company logo, and it will appear every time you enter a VR project in VR or browser mode. So this is a great way to kind of personalize your VR experiences. Okay, so now that you have a good idea of what you can expect to see when logged in to your Yulio account, let's go back to the projects page and we'll get into creating and organizing your projects. So as you start creating with Yulio, all your projects will be organized into folders along the left side of your screen. Yulio offers two different types of folders, public and private. You can tell which folders are public because there will be a person icon on the folder. When you log into your account, you should see a folder titled Team. This folder is public by default, which means that this folder, along with any of its subfolders, are visible to you and anyone else that's a user on your account if you have an account with multiple seats. The solid black folders are your private folders. These can be helpful if you have more than one team member on your account and you want to protect your projects from accidental edits or deletions. These folders are only visible to you and anyone that is listed as an admin on your account. To create a new folder, you would just scroll down to the bottom of your list and select Create New Folder. From here, you can title your folder, and then that will appear as a private folder at the bottom of your list. If you wanted to make your folder public, you could do that just by clicking and dragging it as a subfolder under Team. If you wanted to change it back to private, you would just select it again and then drag it back down to the bottom of your list. All right, so now let's get into creating your first VR experience. So there's two ways to go about this. The first is with Yulio Jump. So when you render your projects with Jump, a new Yulio project will be automatically created for you, and it will upload from your CAD program to your Yulio account, looking something like this. If you choose to render your scenes with a different rendering engine, you can create a new project manually just by coming into your account and then selecting this Create Project button. So when you do this, this will open up a new project in your account where you can manually upload all of your scenes that you rendered, as well as any other content that you want to include. If you are rendering your scenes or your VR scenes with another rendering engine, just keep in mind that, like I said earlier, those files have to meet our upload requirements. And you can always see those just by clicking on this button here. see compatible upload formats. This is also in our knowledge base as well if you ever want to look there. So for today's training, we're just going to imagine that we rendered with Yulio Jump and our project has just finished processing. So I'm just going to go back to our folder and open up this office project here. So right now I'm on the edit project page of this project that was designed in CET and rendered with Yulio Jump. So as you can see, my project scenes that I captured in CET were processed and uploaded here for VR. With Jump, you can also choose to have your floor plan and any augmented reality assets generated and uploaded for you, which I have done and I will show you in a little bit. Like I said earlier, you don't have to use Yulio Jump to create a VR project, so if you choose to render your scenes with another rendering engine, you can manually upload those scene renders just by clicking on this browse button. All right, so since my scenes are ready, which is the most important part, let's go through some of the project enhancement assets that we can upload. So as you can see here, next to the Scenes tab, we have a few more um, tabs here where you can upload content. So we have audio, images, videos, AR, and floor plan. For the purposes of today's webinar, I'm going to be taking advantage of all of our enhancements so that you can see how you can use each of them to elevate your VR project. But please note that these are all optional. So our first enhancement option here is audio. There's a couple of different ways you can incorporate audio into your VR experience. The first is through audio hotspots, which are placed as a clickable hotspot anywhere in your project. A couple of ways you can use audio hotspots are to insert a welcome message or describe a design choice. The second way you can incorporate audio into your project is through ambient audio. Ambient audio will automatically play when your viewer enters a scene, so there's no hotspot associated with this audio. A couple of ways you can use ambient audio would be to add music or background noise to your project to set a certain mood and make the experience more immersive. If you're interested, we do offer sample audio files for you to download from the project resources page, which you can access by clicking on the resources tab and then project resources. So, regardless of how you will be using your audio, you will upload all those files here. So, I'm just going to do that now by clicking on the browse button and then selecting those files. So, our next enhancement option is images. Here you can upload a JPEG or PNG file and add it as an image hotspot anywhere in your project. So, some ways you can use image hotspots are to show your client a real life product shot, a material sample, or even a before and after photo. So, again, to upload my images, I'm just going to click on Browse and select those. So, next we have video. Like images, you can insert video anywhere in your project as a video hotspot. A couple of different ways we see video being used are to incorporate product videos or introduce the designer and have them share some details about the design. Anyone with an active Yulio license can add a video to their project from YouTube. So to add a YouTube video, you'll just copy the URL from the video on YouTube. So here's my video. And then I'll come back here and select the add a video from YouTube button and just paste that. One thing to keep in mind when adding a YouTube video is that you will not be able to view the video in Yulio from a VR headset. You'll only be able to view the video in the browser mode experience. So that would be from your desktop or your phone. Now, if you're interested in uploading video files directly from your computer, Yulio does offer a premium video add-on at an additional cost. So with this option, you can view the video in browser mode and on a VR headset. The premium video add-on also enables you to incorporate video scenes into your VR project. So if this is something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me later and I can definitely put you in touch with one of our sales reps to go over that with you in more detail. Our next project enhancement is AR, or augmented reality. So as you can see, I have my AR model uploaded here because, like my scenes, they were generated during the rendering process with Yulio Jump. A benefit of adding AR to your VR project is that you can bring certain objects in your project to life for your client. Using just a phone, a tablet, or a VR headset, your client can actually see what the object will look like in the context of their own physical space. The easiest way to create AR content for your Yulio VR project is with Yulio Jump, and you can do that with Yulio Jump for Revit, SketchUp, and CET. If you want to learn more about adding AR to your Yulio projects, I do encourage you to check out the Yulio Jump user guides available on the CAD plugins page that I showed you earlier. So again, you can access that page just by going to resources and then CAD plugins. From here, you'll be able to download the individual user guide depending on your preferred CAD tool, and there will be a section included in each guide that covers AR assets. So if you choose not to use Yulio Jump, again, you can manually upload an AR model from your files, just as long as it meets our compatible upload formats, which you can see again just by clicking on this button here. Our final enhancement option here is the floor plan. Like I mentioned earlier, if you render with Yulio Jump, your floor plan can be automatically captured and uploaded to your project for you, which I have done, so mine is already uploaded. Again, if you don't use Yulio Jump, you can always upload your floor plan manually. And if your space is multi-level, you can add multiple floor plans here as well. So when you include a floor plan in your project, Yulio allows you to add location markers to that floor plan, which I will show you a little bit later. These location markers will represent each of your scenes, and your clients can use the markers to help them identify where they are in the space and use them to navigate to new scenes as well. All right, so these are all of the assets that you can add to your project. You can always come back to this page at any time if you want to add more assets or remove assets. And one of the great things about Yulio is you don't have to remember to save your changes along the way. All of your edits are automatically saved as you go. So now that I have all of my content here uploaded, my next step would be to open the hotspot editor and start adding the navigation and enhancement hotspots to my scenes using those assets I uploaded. So you can open the hotspot editor from this page just by clicking on this big blue button on the top right side of your screen. So when you open the hotspot editor, you'll see that you are standing in your first scene. And if you look to the left of my screen, you'll notice that all of your hotspot editing options are available here. So we're going to go through each of these one by one. The first hotspot editing option is target scenes. So if you've added more than one scene to your project, this is where you can add or edit your navigation hotspots throughout each scene in your project. So if you don't know, navigation hotspots are Yulio's form of point-to-point navigation. Your viewer can activate them to navigate to new scenes, and it helps give your viewer a sense of walking around the space. So as you can see, my navigation hotspots have already been placed in my project. These are the white circles here, view 2, 3, and 4. When you render with Yulio Jump, you'll see that you have the option to add navigation hotspots to your scenes during the rendering process. So that's what I've done here, and it just saves me from having to come in and do it manually myself. That being said, sometimes I like to come into the hotspot editor to fine tune maybe the placement or the size of my navigation hotspots that are generated through Yulio Jump. So this is where I would go to do that. So if you want to adjust the location of your hotspot, you can just use your mouse to click on the hotspot and drag it where you want it. Yulio Jump will typically place your hotspots at eye level, but we've seen users place their hotspots on the floor so that they don't take away from the scene. In this project, my second scene, which is this view 2 one that I have clicked right now, this is actually a seated view. So I like to move the hotspot down a little bit to represent that seated position. Now to edit the size of the hotspot, you can click on the hotspot like I've done and then select this pencil tool. And this will open the hotspot's properties. This is where you can use this depth slider here to adjust the size of your hotspot. Technically, what this tool is doing is making your hotspot appear closer or further away in VR, which helps the viewer distinguish between near and far. So you'll see as I adjust the depth slider closer to far, it'll get smaller, and then closer to near, it will get bigger. Um, I'm just going to adjust the slider depending on how far away or close I want the hotspot to appear in relation to my current camera position. So this hotspot is not very far from me, so I'm going to keep it closer to near. Within your hotspot properties, you can also edit the title here or hide the title of your hotspot. You can also scroll down and adjust the color. So we have white and black as the standard options, but you can also open up this paint tool and select any color here. Once you're good with that, you can just press close. Now, if you did not use Yulio Jump, or if you prefer to just add your hotspots manually, you can do so by dragging and dropping each scene into your current scene based on its location. So when you go to add a navigation hotspot, you'll see a thumbnail image here, just like this. That's your target view. So this tells you where that camera or hotspot should be positioned in the scene. So you would just drag and drop the hotspot in that location. From there, you'd be able to adjust your hotspot properties like I've just done, such as the title, the size, and the color. An important note to add here is if you're adding your navigation hotspots manually, you will have to add your hotspots to each scene. So don't forget to move to the next scene. You can do that just by selecting this arrow button to again drag and drop your hotspots into this scene as well. So you can move to new scenes again, like I said, with these arrow buttons. You can also open up your scene list and navigate to a new scene this way as well. Okay, so now that I have my navigation hotspots, I'm going to move down the list of hotspot options. The next one we have here is audio. So here are those audio files I uploaded earlier. This one here is just a welcome message, and to add it to my scene, I'm just going to drag and drop it where I want it to go. Once I drop the hotspot, I can edit my hotspot or audio properties just like I did with my navigation. So for the title, I'm going to leave the title on. I'm just going to edit it a little bit to shorten it to welcome. Just because longer titles can kind of take away your scene, especially when you're viewing in VR. So I've shortened that to welcome. My depth looks good, so I'm just going to leave that. And then I'm going to keep it the same color and then press close. Next to or below audio, we have text. Oops. So text hotspots are the only hotspot that you don't have to upload anything in advance for. You'll create your text hotspots right here in the hotspot editor. So some ways you can use text hotspots are to insert a welcome message. You can offer product details or specs, or you can even provide any additional information about the space. So to create my hotspot, I'm going to click on Create Annotation. And I'm going to use this text hotspot to promote Yulio's 30-day free trial. So starting with the title, I'm just going to write Try Yulio. And then I'm going to write a short description here. And then I can also add an external link to my text hotspots. So an external link is just a clickable link that will appear when someone opens the text hotspot. They can click on that link to visit an online PDF or a web page that can provide more information. So to title my link, I'm gonna title it "Get Started," and then I'm gonna insert my link. In this case, I'm going to link to Yulio's pricing page. Next, I can adjust the depth and the color and then press close. I'm just going to move my text hotspot over to this side. Perfect. So our next hotspot here is images. I'm actually going to move to my third scene to add an image hotspot. And I can do that just by clicking again on this scene list and then view 3. All right, so here's the images I uploaded earlier. Um, and also, if you're wondering why I moved to view 3, so ideally, when you're creating and placing your enhancement hotspots, we recommend sprinkling those hotspots throughout all the scenes in your project. This can just help keep your clients engaged as they move from scene to scene. It also helps keep you from flooding one single scene with a bunch of hotspots. So now that I'm in my new scene, I'm going to add an image hotspot. Just like I've been doing, I'm going to click and drag my image into the scene to create the hotspot. So this one here is a photo of another variation of this shelving system. So I'm just going to place it over the shelf. Now looking at my hotspot properties, I am going to hide this title. It's just the product name. I just don't want it to be distracting within the scene, so I'm going to hide it. Again, I have the option to add a link to this hotspot. So this would be a great time to add a link to the product page. So I would title this product details, and then I can add the link to the product page. So here is that product page. I can copy that and paste it. I'm just going to adjust the depth a little bit and then press close. And there's my image hotspot. The next hotspot we can add is video. I'm going to move to my second seed to add video. So I'm just going to click on this arrow here to move to my previous scene. So we do often see videos being placed on a screen, so a TV or a computer, but of course you can place them anywhere you'd like. For this project, I'm just going to place the video right on this desktop screen. I will keep the title on here. Again, you can add an external link to your video hotspot as well, but I'm just going to leave that blank. And then I'll move this depth slider and press close. All right, the last hotspot I can add here is AR. So like I said earlier, I rendered this project with Yulio Jump, and I added AR models to my renders. So my AR hotspots were generated and placed in my project automatically. You can actually see it here if I move to the left. So similar to navigation hotspots though, sometimes I like to come in and adjust the placement or the size of my AR hotspots that are generated through Jump. So I will come in to the hotspot editor and adjust them if needed. So I can open the AR hotspot properties just by clicking on it and then selecting that pencil icon. And then I can come in here. I can also add an external link to my AR model as well. So if I wanted to link to maybe the product page for this chair, I can do that here. I can again adjust the depth and the color and press close. All right, moving on from hotspots, I'm going to click on this map icon at the bottom of my screen. This will open up my project's floor plan. So, what you can do in the hotspot editor to enhance your floor plan is add location markers that are associated with your scenes. Because I rendered with Yulio Jump and selected Add Floor Plan, all of my location markers have already been accurately placed on the floor plan for me. That being said, if you didn't use Yulio Jump, you would be able to come into the hotspot editor and add them manually just by dragging and dropping them into the floor plan based on their location. So I can see a preview of the location marker from this thumbnail. So if I click on, let me delete one here and I can show you what this would look like. So here's view one, and I can see, like I said, that preview of where this location marker is located based on this thumbnail. And I want to just match that location as best as possible by dragging and dropping the marker onto the floor plan. So that's located about here. And then once I drop it, similar to all of my other hotspots, I can edit some of the properties. Um, so that would be the title. I can also show the title on the floor plan if I'd like. And then I can adjust the marker size as well. So by having these location markers on your floor plan, your client will be able to easily identify where they are in your space. So depending on which scene they're in, when they open up the floor plan, the location marker that represents the scene they're standing in will be highlighted blue. They can also use the location markers to navigate to a new scene just by clicking on one of them. And I'll show you this a little bit later. All right, the last optional enhancement that we haven't yet added to our project is ambient audio. Ambient audio is actually created outside of the hotspot editor, so I'm just going to click on this back icon and return to the edit project page. So now that I'm back on this page, I'm just going to add my ambient audio under the scenes tab. So you can add ambient audio to any or all scenes. As I mentioned earlier, ambient audio will play as soon as your client enters the scene where you've added the audio. So to add audio to a scene, you'll just click on this sound button next to the scene. And from here, your audio files that you uploaded earlier will pop up. I'm just going to click on this office ambience sound. This is just general office background noise. So if I click on that, from here I can choose to loop it indefinitely or loop it just once. So I'll loop it once and then press save. Now when my client enters my first scene, this ambient audio will play automatically. If I wanted to, I can add this audio to all of my scenes just by repeating those steps for each scene. To remove the audio from a scene, just select ambient audio and then deselect the audio file and press save. So at this point, my project is ready and I can go ahead and view it. There's a couple of different ways you can open and view your project, but from this page here, you can just click on this View in 360 button, and this will open the project in browser mode. So this is what the browser mode experience looks like. I can use my mouse to just click and drag around the scene. So as you can see, all of the hotspots we created are here in the space. So I have my navigation, my text, my audio, and then here's AR as well. And if I moved to my other scenes, you would be able to see my image and video hotspots as well. I'm going to explore this project a little bit more and test out these hotspots during our collaborate session shortly. So for now, I'm just going to exit out of the project. The next thing I'm going to go over are some tools that we have for sharing your projects. So as we know, when you click on a project in your account, you will be taken to this page here. At the top of this page, you'll notice a few secondary tabs. So we have assets. This is where we are, the tab we're in now. We also have markup, share, and analytics. For now, I'm going to click on the share tab to show you some of our sharing tools. So within this tab is where you'll find your project URL. Each project you create with Yulio will generate its own URL, and you can copy and share it anywhere you would share a regular URL. Anyone with this link can open and view your full project unless your project is set to private. So on the right side of the URL, we have a few more sharing options. The first icon here opens up a unique QR code, which you can download and print or share digitally. In an event or a trade show setting, you can have this code on display at your booth, and anyone with a smartphone can scan the code and the project will pop up on their phone. This next icon we have is for text sharing. So you can share the project directly via text message to someone's phone. Next, we have Embed, which allows you to embed your project directly on your website. This is a great feature because you can showcase one or more projects on your company's website and they are fully interactive. So here's an example of what this could look like. So here's a project that we've embedded on our website. And as you can see, it's pretty much looks just like the browser mode experience, but it's embedded directly on one of our pages. So whoever's looking at this page can interact with the full project here. On the left side of the URL, we have the default starting scene tool. This feature allows you to change the opening scene in your project before you share the project. So, this tool can be helpful if you've made an update to a specific scene in your project and you want to share that scene with a colleague or a client without having to move through all the other scenes in your project to get to it. So, you would just click on choose starting scene and then you can adjust the opening scene of the project. All right, we are going to wrap up today's webinar with a collaborate session. So you can click on this tab here at the top to access collaborate. Like I said earlier, collaborate is our presentation and collaboration tool, and it's our best tool for presenting your projects to clients and colleagues. When you host a collaborate session, everyone can meet in the same virtual space and you can guide viewers around the space. You can see what others are seeing and you can collect feedback. We see this feature used for in person and remote meetings and even at events. So, with Collaborate, all the guests that you're meeting with, whether they're in person or remote, can join from a VR headset or in browser mode. To launch a session, you're just going to click on Start Collaborating. And as the host, you must launch a Collaborate session from your browser. So you can't launch a session from a VR headset. So from here, I'm going to select which project I'd like to host my session in. Something to note here is that if you have a headset connected to your account and you have projects uploaded to your headset gallery, when you start a Collaborate session, the first project in your headset gallery will auto load by default. So you wouldn't come in and choose the project like I've done. You can turn that setting off if you'd like. So when you launch a Collaborate session, if you want to turn that setting off for future sessions, you can go to settings and then turn off auto load first headset project. So that each time you launch a Collaborate session, you can manually choose which project you want to host your session in. All right, so to add guests to your session, you're just going to click on this person icon with the plus sign. If your guests are in a position where they can see the screen that we're looking at, they can scan this QR code on their phone and join on their mobile device. They can also join by going to live.yulio.com and then entering this unique group code. So at this time, I'm going to invite whoever wants to join this session to join on your mobile device. You can either scan this QR code with your camera, or you can visit live.yulio.com and enter the group code. So the group code for today's session is EN3W. So when a new guest joins, you'll be able to see their name pop up in the participants tab here. I'm just going to give a few more minutes or a few more seconds for anyone who'd like to join to do that. All right, so if you've joined on your mobile device, you can look at my screen to see what your perspective will be as you host sessions moving forward. And then what you see on your mobile device is what your guest experience will look like. Before we get started, I do want to point out our latest feature that is now available in Collaborate, and that is our live meeting tool. So, live meeting is an integrated function that allows you to speak to and hear from your guests right within the Collaborate session, meaning you no longer have to use an external communication or meeting tool to chat with your guests in Collaborate. What's great about this tool is that it works whether your guests are joining from a smartphone, desktop, tablet, or a VR headset. So to turn it on, you would just click on this Start Chat button, and you can start communicating in real time with your clients or colleagues. I'm going to leave it off today just because I'm hosting a webinar, so there would be some conflicting audio issues if I turned that on. But it is a really great tool. I'm super excited about it, so I definitely recommend that you try that out when you host your own Collaborate sessions. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our session. So looking at my screen, as the host, there's two ways you can present your Collaborate session. We have present mode and explore mode, and you can see those here at the under the participants tab. By default, Collaborate sessions will open in present mode, and we recommend starting off in this mode because it gives you as the host the control to guide your viewers through the experience and direct your viewers' attention to certain areas in a scene. In this mode, only the host has the control to activate hotspots and move to new scenes. Now, if I click on Explore mode, in this mode, all guests can explore the project freely, including activating hotspots and navigating to new scenes. During this time, Explore mode will gaze through each guest's view every 10 to 15 seconds, so you can see what all your guests are looking at and where they're exploring. All right, I'm just going to switch back to present to get started with the session. So before we start looking around, an important thing to note is that while in present mode, your guest screens will not be following your gaze exactly. So if you join the session, you'll notice that we're in the same scene, but as I look around, the view on your phone doesn't follow. That being said, as the host, I can direct my guest's attention to a certain area at any time just by using this spotlight button. So that's at the top right of the screen, and it looks like a flashlight. So let's say I wanted to direct your attention. Oops, I accidentally hit the button. Let's say I wanted to direct your attention over to the this text hotspot here. I would move my gaze over here and then click on that spotlight tool. And then if you join the session, you'll notice that your gaze was redirected to in the direction of mine. So let's take a look now at some of our hotspots. We'll start here with the text hotspot. So I can open that up. And when I open that up, if you join the session, you should see that opened on your screen as well. So here's that text I added, and then here's that external link that I can click. If I opened it, it would open in a new tab in my browser. It would open to the pricing page, which is what I linked to. Now I'm going to activate one of my navigation hotspots. So let's click on view 3. So if you join the session, you should have moved scenes with me, and you'll see that we're just viewing the space from a new location now. From here, I can go ahead and open my image hotspot that I added. So when I click on that, it'll expand on the screen um, for you to see. And at the bottom of the image, again, is that link that I added here to the product page. Now, if I go ahead and open the floor plan just by clicking on this map icon, I can identify where we are in the space based on the location markers that I added earlier. So as you can see, the location I am in is highlighted blue, and I can navigate to any new scene just by clicking on one of these markers. So I'll move back to my first scene here. So now that we're in our first scene, let's test out one of the AR hotspots. So if I click on that, taking a look at my screen for a minute, this is what the browser experience looks like when you're viewing an AR hotspot from your computer. So I can click and drag my mouse to view the object in full 360. Now, if your guest has joined the Collaborate session on their computer also, what they can do is click on this AR button at the bottom of their screen, and they can scan this QR code with their smartphone or tablet. This will open the AR object on their device where they can see the object as a digital overlay on their physical environment. And this is using the device's camera. So from there, they would be able to position the object, scale it, walk around it, and so on. If your guest joined the Collaborate session from a VR headset with mixed reality capabilities, so that would likely be any VR headset that has a camera on it, or from their phone or their tablet, they would be able to just open the object and have that true AR experience without having to scan any QR codes. So if you join the session on your phone, you'll notice that when you open up the model, there should be an AR button at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that, and then you'll see a pop-up to view the object in AR, and that will open up the object in your device's camera, and you'll see that object as an overlay on your physical environment. At this point, that wraps up our Collaborate session. So I'm just going to go ahead and end the session here. And that is all for our Getting Started with Yulio webinar. So I know that was a lot of information to take in a pretty short amount of time, but I do hope that you were able to learn more about your Yulio account and how easy it is to start creating and sharing your VR projects. So thank you all for joining me today. If you have any questions, you can submit them in the question box, and I will stick around for the next couple of minutes to answer those. As a reminder, if you do want to book an additional training session with me, my email is up on the screen. So please feel free to reach out to me and I will gladly set up a time for us to meet. Of course, you can also email me at any time if you have any questions that pop up later. I also do have the webinar schedule on screen here. So if you can't find it on our website, you can also just go to try.yulio.com/webinars. All right. So that is all. Thank you for joining me for this session. Like I said, I'm going to stick around for a couple of minutes to answer questions. But other than that, have a great rest of your day.